That is Mike Keith, Coach Dave McGinnis, Titans Radio, 2019 against the then Oakland Raiders. A little bit of nostalgia, Tannehill to A.J. Brown. There's few people who could remember that, and since we're doing a remembrance, we might as well do it with somebody who has already passed on.
I'm dead. Glad to be here, bud. Thanks for having me. Thank you for having me.
Is the voice of Taylor Lewan, former Titans left tackle, co-host of the extremely successful podcast, much to my dislike, Bussin' with the Boys, wherever you get your podcast, Slips and Picks, also out there on the Bussin' with the Boys YouTube channel. Check it out before you bet each week's games. Hey, bud.
How are you?
I'm great. It's good to see you. It's been a while.
It has. I think the last time I actually saw you was at Beer Olympics.
That's right.
Yeah. What a time, right? What a time.
We can't talk about it on the air.
You're right. Absolutely. But you brought, I mean, obviously the montage, shout out this entire production company of putting out Ryan Tannehill voiceover with that music going on. If you can give a quarter a day, you can say 15 puppies, whatever that backdrop music was. It was amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Lucas, are you going to take the compliment? I don't give you compliments around here. I'm like Mike Vrabel. I'm here to temper your expectations.
Yes, our entire production team worked very hard to put that together.
Speaking of Mike Vrabel, you give a compliment, you have to give an insult as well. What are we doing? Budget cuts around here? Because look at my head. Look at this.
Okay, no, you pulled the headphones apart as you put them on your head.
They were folded, and I unfolded them like an adult does when they grab headphones. I can't put them on when they're folded.
All right, you want another pair of headphones? I'll go get you another pair of headphones.
No, we're fine. Let's get
Are you
down
coachable?
to the nitty-gritty.
Are you going to play through adversity?
I will, absolutely. Here I am.
It's little. Okay, it has to stop hanging off your head that way.
Nope.
I can't stare
You
at
need to go through
this
adversity as well.
entire
If
time.
I'm going to go through it, we got to go through it as a team.
How have you been experiencing this Titan season?
As a fan, it's wild, but I can totally, like, when I was playing, you didn't understand why, like, fans are getting so high with the highs and so low with the lows, but now experience it being in Nashville, I fully understand, because they have wins. You're like, yo, Bengals, we just beat the Bengals. We are so bad.
No, you didn't beat the Bengals. You kicked the holy hell out of the Bengals.
Dominated. And then you go and lay an egg after that, and it's like, God, like, what's got to get figured out? And that's kind of just what has been a theme is like you win the games you're not supposed to win, you lose the games you're supposed to win. And so I feel the energy with Will Levis, but I feel like it's important to bring it back to Ryan Tannehill because Tannehill's been painted in the city as a villain to some extent, which inevitably comes with the territory that we all endure. Towards the end of my career, I've been the bad guy in situations. You're getting injured, guys on the field. Why are we paying him this much money? I understand that. But if we can look back at Tannehill and we realize guy comes in 2019 for a fourth-round pick and then essentially takes us to an AFC championship, makes us contenders.
The Dolphins want to get rid of him so badly that they're paying the bulk of his salary to come to Tennessee.
Right. And so he's done so much for this franchise, right? We go to the AFC championship. We're the #1 seed going into playoffs in 2021. And so now that it's coming to an end, we should be excited about Will Levis. It's only a 2-game sample size, but he's moved the ball up and down the field. And the most important thing about Will is the confidence he's showing in and out of the pocket, picking up blitzes, seeing a rotation of safeties. The way he seems like he's handling it, where he seems he's mentally steps above where a rookie should be right now, and that's exciting. But we got to tip the cap to the boy Tannehill.
Well, that's you were good to come down here. I know that it's not easy to take time out of your day to come through here and to talk about this, but there's not a lot of people who are as well equipped to talk about it from that angle as you are. Like Ben and Kern will come in from time to time. Bates, when we can keep him from cussing on the radio on a regular basis, or he's not coaching the Seattle Seahawks at this point. But you, at the time that you got here in 2014, you were the starting point, and you in that draft class, you were the one that lasted, though. You're the one that got the second contract here. You were a foundational piece for what would become that run, that team, or that current iteration of Titans football, which is, after Steve McNair in a Super Bowl run, the second most successful run of football that has been played in the Titans era. So when you're going through all of that leading up to week 6 in Denver, down 16-0 to Joe Flacco, you can't block, not you specifically, but as a unit, you can't block anybody. Marcus is taking sacks back there. He's struggling. He gets pulled. Tannehill comes in. At what are you guys thinking collectively as a line group and as a team when that move finally gets made?
When the move gets made from a personal standpoint, you're sad for Marcus. The same way I'm sad for Tannehill right now is because you establish a relationship with a guy, especially Marcus getting drafted #2 overall and kind of having the career he did where that first big flash against Tampa Bay, you're like, oh my God, like this is the guy. And then you end up going 9-7, 9-7, 9-7 over and over again. And then you get to that 6th game of the season, myself going through a lot of adversity too, being suspended for the first 4 games of that season.
It was a rocky year.
It was a rocky year.
Until it wasn't.
Until it wasn't, exactly. Because it's all not about how you start, baby, it's how you finish. But during that game, playing in Denver's hell anyway, because the altitude, it's just awful. But when they said they were going to make the switch and Ben Jones starts getting snaps with Tannehill and we go out to the field, Ben is a guy that always kind of knew more than everybody else, whether it was during the game, what the plays are going to run, what the coaches are thinking.
He's listening, by the way.
Yeah.
Don't say that out loud. He'll let it go to his head.
Yeah, and well, I love Ben, so I'll give him these flowers. Ben did say, I remember we were at the Broncos, he goes, this kid, he can spin it. And we've seen him do it at the Dolphins, but he's like, he can spin it. And we didn't really do a lot in that game after in the second half. We moved the ball up and down the field, and we showed we can move the ball, kind of like Levis did against the Steelers. Now, he didn't throw touchdowns in that game, but he moved the ball up and down. It gives you a lot of promise. And then when you go to Tannehill, it's like, you don't know what to expect at that point. You're 2-4. Who knows what's going to happen with this team? Like, are we dead? Are we not dead? Everyone's saying we don't have a pulse. And so it'll be interesting to see what happens with the team now. But looking back, it was a perfect storm. And being a part of a 2-14 and 3-13 team in 2014 and 15, you go and you say a piece, like the first piece. It's all the incremental steps. Marcus got us to that average to above average team, which might sound like an insult to Marcus, but it's not, because he took this team from abysmal to, hey, we got something to be proud of. Yeah,
functional, competitive.
They're going to competitive every single game. You guys, we have a shot to win every single game. He hands the reins over to Tannehill, literally turns us into contenders. Whether you like to admit it or not, the Tennessee Titans from 19 to essentially 21, which is only 3 years, they're looking at us going, the Tennessee Titans have a shot to be in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, but you say only 3 years, and I think if we're going to bring this thing back, Taylor Lewan in studio with us at Taylor Lewan 77, because I saw Will Compton has passed you by on social media following, and perhaps you need a little boost.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
But when this comes to pass the way that it does, and you mention a 3-year span, like, there's nobody else that really gets much longer than that without Mahomes or Brady.
Right.
3 years is a small period of time in a normal human being's lifespan. But there are so many more lows for professional sports franchises generally, especially in the NFL when it's so successfully built for parity, that I don't look at it as a short time. Like, I look at it as, okay, that's a life cycle of a competitive franchise, and at a certain point, they kept it alive, I think, longer than most people do before, halfway through the season being like, all right, Tannehill's hurt. If we're going to make a move, let's make it now. We might be a little more competitive if we do. And through 2 starts, they have been with Levis.
Yeah. And those are good points. And I feel like the way.
Or am I couching it too much? Like, if I'm being too soft, let me know. Because I thought,
no.
I think 3 years is a good
3 years
run.
is fantastic, unless you're right. Unless you have a Mahomes or you have a Brady, you have these
it's
aliens
a window
that come in. But here's where we can get excited for the Titans. We give in Tannehill flowers. If Will Levis continues to improve and shows that he can move the ball up and down the field, shows that he can score touchdowns and he can be in these games and put more points on the board than our average of which is like 16.5 points per game. Now you go into the offseason. 17.3, excuse me. That was terrible. If you can do that, well, you're looking at $100 million in cap space. You traded Kevin Byard, which sucks because Kevin was just such a staple of this team, but you get a little bit of draft equity there. Now you're going to this offseason and be like, hey, we could pay for, if you want to bulk up the offensive line, you can pay for another guy like to complement DeAndre Hopkins. You can now pay to put these pieces in to where, a lot of times you see these teams have these 3-year spurts and then they're back in the gutter for 4 or 5 years. I don't think the Titans are going to be in that situation. I think Rand does a great job, and I think Mike Vrabel is a top 5 head coach in this NFL.
Your boy Mike's under a little heat from the fans.
Yeah, but why? My question is why? Because he didn't say like Levis is going to be the starter. He said that Levis, he did okay. He did all this.
Not just that, it's compounded, Taylor. They're not winning.
Right.
It's a struggle to score, so everything's magnified. You've lived that life before. And it's also that Mike does not acquiesce to anybody under any circumstances, and that he's going to, and by the way, has been successful doing it his way, but that he continues to do it this way, his way, without feeling the need to fill fans in more or maybe, I don't want to say cater to them more. to cater to them is to win, and they're not doing that.
Right, and they obviously need to win, and if they don't do that in the future, then obviously we can have conversations about fans not liking Mike Vrabel. But Mike, from getting his players to understand the game in and out and knowing situational football, unlike Mike McCarthy, the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, we would go into games and understand strategic ball, 2 minute, how many timeouts, where we have to get
What'd you do
all
to
that
Mike
stuff.
McCarthy there?
What's that?
What'd you do to Mike McCarthy there?
You saw last week against the Eagles.
I'm aware of what's.
But it's that you got to teach that. That's Friday tape. That's where Vrabel's sitting with the boys going, hey, new dish, Friday tape. Here we going, boys. And he pulls up the mistakes that are made from the weeks past and Thursday Night Football, and he basically drills the guys to let them know this is what you need to do. Mike's job, and this is going to be a tough take for fans to hear. Mike's job is not to appease the fans. It's to make sure that team is locked in and ready to go week in and week out. And you can say, hey, the wins aren't there, blah, blah, blah. He's done more with less in the past. And if this is one of those years where, unfortunately, it's kind of like a rebuild, where we're not looking at the Titans as true contenders or true ability to do X, Y, and Z, we have that, hey, we're all excited about Rand, aren't we? We have all this cap space now. We have all this draft equity. Mike doesn't need to go to these press conferences. I'm sure it's frustrating for you and all the reporters that go there and like, hey, tell us how great Will Levis did. And Will Levis, and he's like, oh, could have done some things better.
Meh.
That is true. The truest form of Mike Vrabel.
Absolutely.
He's got a rookie quarterback who has been on the TikToks. He does the dance. He's got the mayo and the coffee.
You guys were so wrong to find those. As soon as he beat the Falcons, you had the TikToks.
He can get cocky. I don't know Will that well, but you can see it. Guy can maybe get cocky fast. Vrabes is doing a good job of handling the rookie the way the rookie should be handled. He behind closed doors, I guarantee he's like, hey, we might got something here. We might got some studs. But if he goes and says this guy's it, well, now he's hurting a guy like Tannehill that has done so much for this franchise and helped Mike win a whole bunch of games.
Who means a lot to Mike.
Who means a lot to Mike. Exactly. So the importance is not to get the next biggest clickbait quote. It's to make sure that everybody in that locker room, in that building, is on the same page and handling things the way things should be handled. And that is something that us as fans have to sit there and be like, all right, we don't like that. However, he's doing it the right way if you want a good foundation for a franchise.
You're in the clicks business now, though, bud.
Yeah, exactly. But if you follow Bustin' with the Boys, we're not here to grab clicks. We're here to let the boys be boys. And if clicks happen, they happen to happen.
Let me talk to you about some clicks yesterday. We'll come back. We'll circle back to the Kevin Byard stuff. Max Crosby, the interview that you guys did yesterday, the latest episode of Bussin' with the Boys.
If you're going to give a spoiler, I would slow it down.
Available wherever it is that you get your podcast. There, I don't need to give spoilers. The spoilers are already out there on the internet because they're being produced not just from the Bussin' account, but now the main Barstool Sports account has taken the clip from Bussin' of you guys asking about the exchange with Josh McDaniels and Antonio Pierce, who is now the interim coach of the Raiders. And the tweet is positioned as if Max Crosby is disputing the report.
Right.
If you listen to the clip, Max Crosby is not disputing the report. He's just saying it didn't happen in front of a team. That, my friend, is Clickbait 101.
Well, if you really
congratulations for finally joining our ranks.
We're
not
trying
to break his news, breaking on Bussin'. Will Levis may be starting for the Tennessee Titans against the Atlanta Falcons.
Was that right?
You were right, but you're doing it scared.
And who was the first person to report it?
Not you, because you said maybe.
Taylor Rappaport. That was me. I said that first. From a very reliable source.
Sure.
But, I'm here for the boys. It's the same thing. I go on Kay Adams' show every Monday at 10 a.m.
Up and Adams on the FanDuel Sports Network.
Phenomenal.
You can see Taylor there.
But she grills me about not having hard takes. And the reality is like she asked me a question about the 2-minute operation with the Cowboys and the Eagles. And she's like, who's that on? Oh, no, it was the Chiefs Dolphins. It was the bad snap.
Who's that on is such a sports media question.
Who's that on? And I'm like, well, it's on both the quarterback and the center. Like, that's the reality of the situation. It's not a sexy answer, but it is what it is. So you just got to take care of the boys a little bit. Take care of the boys.
Taylor Lewan, taking care of the boys. At Bussin' WTB is where you follow the boys on all the social media channels, weekly podcasts. You guys are producing multiple shows a week now. Are you exhausted by your content schedule? You guys traveling all over the place? It looks like you're all in.
September got a little tough. We traveled every single week for our fall tour, and then it was just getting into the groove of essentially betting for the first time in my life, like going through lines, going against spreads, looking at how teams play against the spread and stuff like that. So we found a very good groove getting into November. So I love it. I think it's a great time, and I love that the people are watching. This is awesome.
You fat shamed me.
Yep.
It worked.
You're welcome.
why are you now trying to outdo me in my objective of trying to tighten things up a little bit, no pun intended.
Right. And I'll answer your
question.
question.
Because you look like you're 250 pounds. You look sick.
I'll answer your question with a quote. Comparison is the thief of joy. We don't need to compare each other.
I don't need football quotes in here.
I'm over here, and I'm doing the best I can to look the best I can. And that's all I can do. I can't go look at other people.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go look at C-Bum in the corner, who, if you don't know who that is, it's a famous bodybuilder, and wish I had that body. This is what God gave me, baby. And I'm just here to work. That's it.
Are you proud of yourself for successfully bullying me on the internet?
Yes. I think it's important, and it helped you for the better.
It's important.
Yes. Someday when you're married and you have kids and their kids have kids, you're going to be able to live a longer, more prosperous life. And you on your deathbed will say, "Thank you, Taylor Lewan."
If what I'm saying as I pass on from this world into the next is "Thank you, Taylor Lewan," then I deserve to move on into the next life. then there's nothing else for me to live for. Taylor Lewan here with us in studio. How'd you take the Bayard news?
I was bummed for Bayard. It was a double-edged sword for me because Kevin is also one of those staples that came in. All right, 7 years. He was the longest tenured Titan after I left with Derrick Henry, and just a true pro's pro. Played all the snaps, was an all-pro guy, Pro Bowl guy, consistently on the back end, getting everybody right. And so I was sad that his time at Tennessee was over for the Titans. Now, Kevin's a Philly guy. He grew up in Philadelphia. He is going to a team that are true contenders.
He's getting the full Philly experience, by the way. They were on his neck for that defensive, that unnecessary roughness penalty that gave the Eagles
that is the best.
Oh, my God, they were so fast on him.
Yeah. I feel like, dude, Philadelphia fans are, and I mean this as a compliment, disgusting. Like, they are rude, obnoxious, yelling, saying obscene things, getting Joey Bosa during the playoffs to say hit him with the "I'm richer than you" quote,
That's
which
right.
is always an L when you do that. But dude, if you're Jason Kelsey, if you're a guy who not only has been a Philly but a stable Philly and they love him, he might as well have a statue next to the Rocky Balboa statue. And KB being, he's getting a taste of that for the first time because Titan fans don't go that hard.
No.
We have a 5% that goes super hard, but they have, their whole entire fan base is like that. So, but I'm happy for Kevin because he has the opportunity to win a Super Bowl this year, and he deserves to have a Super Bowl.
So does Derek.
Yeah.
Derek's still here.
Right.
Ravens were the closest team in on him.
Allegedly.
That didn't come to pass. No, not allegedly. That's more credible than your Will Levis reporting at the time. Is this the best place for Derrick Henry moving forward?
That's a good question.
That's why I'm asking it.
Yeah. It's tough because Derrick, in the purest sense of the form of being a running back, is the best running back. If you hand him the ball and you say run and hit the gap and do essentially what a running back was originally designed to do, he is the best in the business. There's no question about it. The issue,
they're not doing that here with him right now, though.
Right. And if you look at the stats, anytime they rush Derrick Henry over 20 attempts, they've gotten W's. So that's something to look into.
You've been looking at Chris Johnson's Twitter feed.
Yeah, I have, actually. That's exactly where I got that. I think there is a transition going on with the Titans where they're trying not to rely on Derrick so much, and they're trying to get the passing game more involved. They're trying to be more dynamic. Tim Kelly has done a good job. He did a great job with that at Houston with Deshaun Watson and understanding the RPOs and the movements and quick reads. And I think he's going to get that right. But it's an odd transition area that we're kind of doing square peg round hole type vibe. I don't know if Derrick's here next year. I don't know that answer. That's literally for him and the Titans to decide based on money because it's the last year of his contract. Right?
He's on an expiring deal.
So I would assume, just based on the business, Derrick will not be a Tennessee Titan next year.
I'm inclined to think that way also because the organization already displayed an openness to moving on from him as recently as a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. Could you imagine if he went to the Ravens?
Brother.
Do you think he would have lost? Do you think Vrabel and Rand would have lost the entire fan base?
I think Mike would have. Rand hasn't been here long enough. But I think if you are trying to get people to show up for games, and, this is in the middle of maybe Will Levis, maybe not Will Levis, so you're teetering already. Derrick to the Ravens is about as disrespectful a move that can be made if you are the fan base because they've already lived it. They lived it with McNair. Yeah. They lived it with Samari Roll, Derek Mason. There's a lot of famous Titans players that have gone on to have success with the Baltimore Ravens, who, of course, you hate as an organization. Is that the most hated team
most
for
hated
the Tennessee
non-conference?
Titans? I mean, just generally. Who do you hate the most?
Ravens are probably up there. But I tell you, recency bias, dude. The Bengals. They got
Well, that's because Ted Karras won't shut up.
Him saying up yours, Tennessee. Like, first off, find a better chirp, brother. If you're gonna, he was thinking about that since the first quarter. If they're able to win that game,
well, you're a tough person to compare trash talk to because you're out. We can't say the things that you say on the radio.
Right? Yes. But AFC, like #1 seed, divisional game. And then the Bengals did what they did. And then there's been a little bit back and forth there. So I would put the Bengals up there with them. But then the Ravens, dude, you're right. We go in the 50-yard line, which we do every single away game. We go in the 50-yard line, type of gladiators. Everyone's against us, feel the vibe type of thing. We've done that in every single stadium. And now they take it as a personal thing. They put a chip on their shoulder and make it personal, the whole Michael Jordan thing.
John Harbaugh's trying to fight Malcolm Butler.
Right. And so they obviously come in 2020. Playoff game, and they do the same thing, and so that breeds a great rivalry. Me personally, I do not care right now.
Right now, how nice is that? Just to not care.
The stress-free life of waking up on a Sunday morning with the hope and prayer that your bets and you did enough work just to hit.
That your bets are the most stressful thing going on your Sunday.
Yeah, probably, yes. And you root for the boys, and because for me, I enjoy watching Michigan football, and I enjoy watching Tennessee. Everything else is kind of like I'm trying to kind of get a gauge of where everybody else is at for slips and picks, for bet the bus or whatever like that. But I get stressed out when the Titans are losing because you want your boys to do well. But hey, brother, ain't no stress here. We're living our best life at this point right now, and it's fantastic.
Like I'm happy for you.
I appreciate
really am.
that.
I've dragged you down here. I've only got one more segment. You want to stick around?
Sure, absolutely.
Taylor Lewan bussing with the boys here with us on 104.5 The Zone.